Well, UFC 310 just ended, and in the co-main event, Ian Machado Garry brutally exposed Shavkat Rakhmonov. All right, maybe not brutally, but Ian Machado Garry exposed Shavkat Rakhmonov. And I know people are going to get butthurt. I know people are going to get upset. I know they're going to get salty. And I know Shavkat won via decision. And I actually agree with the decision. I gave rounds 1, 2, and 4 to Shavkat. I had it scored 3-2. I think all three judges had it scored 3-2 as well. 48-47 decision win for Shavkat Rakhmonov, who has now earned a title shot. But man, Garry was this close. And I'm not just talking about the submission attempt in the 5th round. Okay, I'm not just saying, oh, he almost got a rear naked choke in the 5th round. He was this close. I went back and rewatched that fight before making this video. And man, he was razor close. Let's go through it round by round. Round 1, essentially nothing really happened. Shavkat clinched up after about a minute of neither guy really throwing too much. They were very tentative early. And it was just kind of a stalemate in the clinch. Shavkat was controlling him, but Garry was kind of landing some, short shots in the clinch. Then Shavkat drug Garry away from the fence. Had Garry all sorts of off balance, trying to finish the takedown, and couldn't get it. And then afterwards, Garry was able to almost get a takedown of his own, looked for a trip, did not get it. Shavkat defended well as well. And then towards the end of the round, they broke, and I think Garry landed like 1 or 2 leg kicks at the end of the round. I had Shavkat taking round 1. Very, very uneventful round 1. Not a whole lot of damage done in round 1. Now, round 2. Garry looked good early. He was landing good oblique kicks, but Shavkat landed 2 good, hard right hands. And I think it was after the second one, Garry clinched up with Shavkat, but Garry was doing well in the clinch. He was kind of defending well. He was getting good position himself, but Shavkat was able to reverse. At one point, Shavkat was like pulling the old Ruzaboyev coach celebration, sticking his fingers in places that didn't belong. I mean, almost ripped his shorts off. Actually did in the next round. And in the second round, Garry in the clinch landed a good knee to the head, and he was showing good takedown defense. And Shavkat, I think it was towards the end of the round, landed a glancing spinning back fist, and I think Garry landed a really hard leg kick to end round 2. Round 2 I thought was razor close, and I thought what it came down to was those two big, there was one big right hand, and there was one really decent right hand from Shavkat early. I think it was those two right hands that systematically won Shavkat that round, or technically won Shavkat that round, because it was razor close. It was a hard round to score. So Shavkat gets round 2 by 2 right hands. Then you have round 3. Round 3, clear Garry round. Garry was chopping at the legs, landing good oblique kicks, was stumbling Shavkat with leg kicks. And round 3, really, Shavkat didn't have anything. I mean, he really didn't have anything. He landed some like low power shots, some jabs to the body, clinched up like midway through the round, but really nothing happened other than Garry's shorts ripped in the 3rd round. Garry landed 2 head kicks. One was pretty clean. The other one was kind of just a partial land. Neither landed like particularly crazy hard. And basically round 3 was Garry oblique kicking him, moving well, jabbing, and Shavkat really wasn't able to do nothing. He tried a spinning heel kick in the 3rd round at the end that came razor close to landing, but completely missed. So Garry clearly won the 3rd round. Then you have the 4th round. 4th round was the most eventful round. And again, when I say Garry was this close to winning, and I don't understand that doesn't, at the end of the day, he lost. He lost on the judges' scorecards. I scored it against Garry, but we're going to break it down, and more specifically after we go through it round by round. But round 4, Garry looked just like round 3 early. Landing oblique kicks, landing body shots. Shavkat landed a spinning back kick to the body, which was good. There were some good leg kicks that were stumbling Shavkat in the 3rd round as well. Then Shavkat clinched up. And Garry reversed, disengaged, and then Shavkat shoots a takedown out in the center, gets the takedown, lands some hammer fists. Garry scrambles. As he's scrambling, he gives up the back. He shakes Shavkat off the top, but instead of trying to follow him down and end up on top of him, he locks up like a front choke. It's deep, but he has no body control, so Shavkat scrambles out, and I think they ended up back in the clinch for a second, but then they broke. Shavkat shot again, and maybe would have got this takedown, maybe wouldn't have, but Garry looked for a guillotine again, had a tight guillotine, but wasn't able to get full guard on the way down. And so Shavkat scrambled out and landed some decent ground and pound, some decent hammer fist. So I gave Shavkat round 4, but very close round 4. But basically it was those hammer fists on the ground from Shavkat throughout this round that I thought it won round 4 for him. Then you have round 5. Round 5 was amazing. Round 5 was, I mean, highest amount of, what's the word I'm looking for? I don't want to say controversy. I guess controversy. I mean, there were highest amount of drama was in the 5th round. 5th round was incredible. Shavkat desperately looked for a takedown early. Garry reverses, ends up taking his back, locks in the body triangle, starts looking for the rear naked choke. He's softening him up. He's looking for the rear naked choke. He gets close a couple times, but Shavkat's tucking his chin very well. It slips under for like a second, but Shavkat readdresses it and is able to survive. And then Shavkat eventually reverses into Garry's guard, but Garry has the body triangle still, and the leg that's wrapped around the ankle was in front of Shavkat rather than out in the open loose. And Garry almost reverses and ends up on top of Shavkat. He's like in a seated position almost up against the fence. But as soon as he takes that leg out from in front, Shavkat ends up back on top of him. They scramble back to their feet, and then not a whole lot happens to end the round. Round 5 was a clear Garry round. So I had a 3-2 Shavkat. But let me just say, overall, I'm not saying this was a robbery. I don't think this was a robbery. I think the right guy won here in Shavkat Rakhmonov based on the judges' scorecards. But this was a symbolic win for Ian Machado Garry. This was a razor close fight. He came in on 3 weeks' notice, took on the boogeyman of the division, and almost finished him in the 5th round. Not only that, it was a close fight. You know, people can say whatever they want to say. Oh, Shavkat won, and they're going to act like he dominated him? Absolutely not. And what's funny is I seen people in the live stream. That's why I'm standing. I didn't even address. I'm standing right now. Yes, I know I'm a physical specimen. I'm an absolute physical specimen. I get it. Make sure you like the video and subscribe to the channel. I'm proud to be proud to be the president of the Ian Machado Garry fan club tonight. And I'm going to be honest. If I'm looking at Ian Machado Garry's UFC career right now, and I can think of the perfect possible outcome for this fight, I think him losing his undefeated record and losing to Shavkat in a close decision was what's best for him, because Shavkat Rakhmonov got exposed tonight. The only thing I regret about this fight in general, in terms of overall personal sentiment, because I know there's going to be a lot of people like, Joey's sad, Joey's coping. This couldn't have been a better night, to be honest, because I think Shavkat Rakhmonov got exposed. Had this been Bilal, had Bilal Muhammad fought Shavkat, I most likely would have picked Bilal. I was leaning Bilal. I can't say for sure because we never got to the day of. I was leaning Bilal. I think I would have picked Bilal. After watching this fight, I think Shavkat Rakhmonov is still an incredible fighter. I think Garry's very good. So if I think Garry's good and Shavkat beat him, of course I think Shavkat's good. But the version of Shavkat I saw against Garry tonight, Bilal absolutely manhandled. Shavkat was tired in the 5th round. It wasn't even a particularly high pace. Garry's out grappling him. Now, I know Garry's an underrated grappler, at least not by me, but a lot of fans. If Garry's doing that, Bilal's he's going to put a pace on you. And also, Bilal has the wrestling where he doesn't have to worry about the striking. He can be over aggressive on the feet, because Garry was kind of being more, picking his shots and being more careful because he's worried about the takedown. The one time he got taken down clean in the 4th round was out in the open. He wasn't really super careless then, but it was out in the open. Bilal doesn't have to worry about that. He's confident in his wrestling. So had Shavkat stepped in there with Bilal tonight, Bilal would have dominated Shavkat, in my opinion. Of course, could Shavkat have caught him, clipped him, and put him away? Yeah, it's possible. But he didn't do it to Ian Machado Garry. I think Bilal's better. I think Bilal tonight would have beat both Shavkat and beat Ian Machado Garry as well. So the reason I think this is the best thing to happen to Garry is because he loses a close fight. He didn't take a whole lot of damage. He builds his confidence. And now he gets to go back and fight, I don't want to say he's not going to fight a low-level guy, but he doesn't get to step up to Bilal Muhammad right now, who's the current UFC welterweight champion. Shavkat now has to go fight Bilal, where I'm thinking after tonight, I was leaning Bilal. I'm heavily leaning Bilal now. I would say I'm 75% sure Bilal Muhammad beats Shavkat, unless Shavkat improves vastly by the time he fights Bilal, but I think the fight's going to happen by probably May. There's a rumored Chicago card. I think Bilal Shavkat on the Chicago card would be incredible. And also, I think that Shavkat, I think he was a bit overrated. I don't think I overrated him at all. I think he was about where I believed he was. But I think people overrated Shavkat and underrated Garry, and that's why I thought this would be a close fight. It's why I thought Ian Machado Garry would be able to win the decision, and ultimately he lost the decision. I think there was opportunities here where he could have won this fight. round 4, he doesn't look for those chokes. I think he wins round 4 most likely. I mean, this is a what-if game, but I'm just saying this is how close this fight was, that, a couple mistakes here and there addressed by Garry, and he easily wins this fight, or not easily wins this fight, but he wins this fight. And then also you have Marc Goddard. I think it was in the 3rd round, if I'm not mistaken. I think I have it in a note here. I think it was in the 3rd round. I'm not 100% sure. But at one point, Marc Goddard, 3rd or 4th round, finally broke them out of the clinch. Shavkat was just holding on to the clinch here. He was just holding on to the clinch, and I don't blame him, because Garry's a really good striker, but Shavkat was actually looking decent on the feet when he was striking. I mean, the 2nd round, the 2 right hands, I think that won the round for him. But I think Shavkat was kind of deemed a bit ineffective here. I don't know why I almost said ineffective. He was deemed a bit ineffective in this fight. He wasn't able to do a whole lot of damage to Garry. Now, ultimately, he got 3 rounds, but now he has to go fight Belal, and I think Belal is going to beat him. I'm pretty confident. Where Garry now gets to go fight a couple other fights, get better, get into his prime, and then maybe he can try to poach off of Belal Muhammad early 2026, late 2025. Maybe on the same card, Conor Chandler happens. Maybe 2026, summer 2026. he can fight co-main event on Chandler McGregor. Might finally happen. But yeah, I think a lot of people, I know there's going to be a lot of delusional comments down below saying, Joey, you're biased for Garry. I think this is just an accurate assessment. And there were some people saying, Joey, your number one rule, and my number one rule is you don't elevate a guy off a loss. And I know people are going to say, Joe, you're elevating Garry off a loss. I'm not. Tonight proved what I already knew. Gary's an elite level fighter. Shavkat's an elite level fighter. Shout out to Shavkat. To go from fighting Belal to Garry on short notice, on 3 weeks notice, is very difficult as well. So we have to grade his performance as such as well. But at the end of the day, I still think Shavkat performed well. But I'm telling you right now, if the same Shavkat that showed up tonight shows up across from Belal Muhammad is going to dunk him on his bald spot, even though Shavkat doesn't have a bald spot, but you get my point. So I think really tonight, anybody who's delusional enough to think Joey's upset or Joey's sad or he's coping that Garry lost, I think you're sorely mistaken. I couldn't be more tickled, to be quite honest. I couldn't be more tickled because I'm rooting for Garry. He gets a lot of unjustified hate. I love Shavkat as well, but Garry gets a lot of unjustified hate, and a lot of people, because what drove me nuts is people hated Garry for reasons that weren't even true, for false information. And then what they did is they used that dislike for Garry. And some people, okay, Garry just rubs them the wrong way, whatever. You're fine. If you dislike Garry, whatever. There's a lot of unjustified hate, which then fuels the emotions of the MMA community into making picks. And they're like, yeah, man, Shavkat's going to run through Garry. He's going to run through him. Shavkat, what was he, 18-0, 18 finishes? Well, guess what? He's 19-0, and now he's only has 18 finishes. And I don't want to sit here and cheerlead a guy for not getting finished, but I'm just saying, people acted as if, oh man, Garry stepped in there and oh man, Shavkat's the boogeyman. He's going to go out there and finish him. I said, look, this is going to be a close fight. I said close fight, Garry wins the decision, potentially even a controversy decision. Go back and watch my prediction. This was a close fight where Shavkat edged it out in control time in the clinch. Let's be very clear as well. If Garry was somebody else, man, I swear the MMA community would be fuming against Shavkat. They'd be like, man, Shavkat's so boring. Shavkat's so boring. But the incels, they so desperately wanted to see Ian Machado Garry exposed, which Garry was exposed in a way as well, because I don't think the current version of Garry tonight beats Belal. But guess what? He doesn't have to fight Belal next. He gets time to improve and grow, a little bit more time, another year. He's one of the younger contenders in the division. I think he's going to be a future champion. I believe he is a future champion. Right now, I think Garry will be a champion. We'll have to see how the division plays out, but the way I'm looking at the division right now, I mean, there's a reason why Colby wouldn't take Shavkat. There's a reason why Colby wouldn't take Garry. I mean, think about this. Garry got a call, hey, you want to fight Shavkat on 3 weeks' notice? And Garry was like, you know what, son of a bitch, I'm in. They called Colby. He shit his britches like they were going out of style. Okay? And not to mention, Colby ducked Garry all year. And you know what? I'll tell you right now. I already knew this, but this has further reaffirmed this opinion. Had Garry fought Colby in June or July, I think it was June, UFC 303, it was the Conor McGregor card. Had Garry fought Colby in June, had Garry fought Colby at UFC Tampa, Garry would have absolutely dog-walked him. Shavkat's having trouble in the clinch with Garry. Shavkat's having trouble controlling Garry in the clinch. And he's heavier than Garry. Garry doesn't cut a lot of weight. Colby's old, washed up, only beat 40-year-olds on losing streaks. And now we expect he was going to beat Garry? and Colby has absolute dog shit striking. I really think Gary's, as much as I am hyped off of this performance, I think Gary's going to watch it back and be a bit disappointed because he's going to see those opportunities that were there. But you know what those opportunities are going to give him? They're going to tell him, look, I'm going to be a future world champion. I was this close. I got to get better. I got to shore up some holes. I got to get a little bit more active. If Gary gets a little more active in those first 2 rounds, he can win those rounds easily. Again, not easily. You get what I'm saying. Just a little bit more active. I mean, he basically threw away the first 2 rounds. His cardio prevailed. His grappling prevailed. His striking prevailed. The leg kicks were nasty. He was kind of throwing the leg kicks like Pereira. You know how Pereira kind of throws his leg kicks a certain way, like almost with the side of the foot? That's kind of how Gary was throwing them tonight. And Shavkat stumbled off a couple leg kicks, and he was smashing the oblique, and he was timing the oblique well. He landed those body kicks. It was just, I think Gary was a little bit worried about the grappling. He didn't want to get caught off guard and end up on his back. And I think that's why he was a little bit more conservative early in particular until his confidence started to pick up. But man, I think he looked excellent in the clinch. I think he looked really good on the feet. Almost had 2 chokes. I know, almost only counts in horseshoes. Almost had 3 chokes. I mean, the first 2, Shavkat was able to scramble out, but they were actually tight. Now, they weren't super close. But I think Gary can build off of this performance, and I think he is a future champion. I think Shavkat is going to have a very tough time with Belal. They brought Belal Muhammad in afterwards. They had a little stare down. I think Bilal's watching that fight. I think he's, licking his lips. He's like Chandler looking at Conor McGregor's Instagram post. He's licking his lips right now because he sees a guy. Okay, I think Belal can control Shavkat in the clinch. I think Belal can take Shavkat down. I think Belal, the only disadvantage Belal has against Shavkat is Shavkat has better jiu-jitsu. But ultimately, Gary is about where I thought he was. I think people were underrating him massively, and he has a lot of room to grow after this performance. And Shavkat, again, I'm not sitting here and saying he's, when I say he's overrated or was overrated, I didn't even overrate him myself. I thought he was very good. I thought he was elite. I thought he was a future title contender, if not a future champion. But I think tonight, a lot of people realized that they let their emotions get involved in picking this fight. But Shavkat, I still, we have to grade him on a little bit of a curve because he did go from fighting Belal to then fighting Ian Machado Garry, which is a vastly stylistic difference. It was about 3 weeks, a month out. So, you have to take that into account. But I'll tell you this right now. We will see a future Shavkat Rakhmonov versus Ian Machado Garry too. I can't wait for Belal Shavkat. I'm still hyped for that fight. Belal, pressure fighter. Shavkat, pressure fighter. I think Shavkat has a jiu-jitsu advantage. If Belal makes mistakes like he did against Leon and gives up his back, I don't know if he has the jiu-jitsu like an Ian Machado Garry, who had really good jiu-jitsu. But yeah, I thought the main event was incredible. I thought it was a great fight. I thought Garry and Shavkat saved the card. Garry in particular obviously came into the card. He's supposed to fight next week on UFC Tampa. Saved UFC 310. I thought it was an incredible fight. First 2 rounds were a little bit boring. But I mean, these guys are fighting in a super high-level 5-round fight, their first 5-round fight. Garry, the first guy to survive Shavkat Rakhmonov. Let me know what you guys think down in the comments. Don't forget to like the video and subscribe to the channel. I have a full card post-fight coming out shortly. There's a lot to discuss. I got 18 videos to do tomorrow. But yeah, like the video, subscribe to the channel. I'll see you guys in the next video.